Hey everyone, today we're going to look at psychotherapy through a totally different lens. We're talking about the psychologist Abraham Maslow and his really refreshing, optimistic take on what it actually means to grow as a person. So I want to start with this question. Just think about it for a second. It seems like a simple little shift, but it completely changes the game. And honestly, this is the core of Maslow's whole philosophy. Let's stop focusing on what's wrong and start looking at our incredible potential. So here's the roadmap for our chat today. We're going to look at what Maslow thought the real goal of therapy was. We'll use his famous hierarchy of needs to figure out why people even go to therapy. Then we'll uncover what he called the best medicine. And finally, see how it all unlocks our own natural path to growth. All right, so first up, what was therapy even for in Maslow's view? You see, he wasn't just aiming for someone to be, functional. No way. He saw therapy as a journey toward a much, much bigger and more profound destination. And that destination? It's all about embracing what he called being values. Now, the key here is that these aren't things you just learn, like skills. They're qualities you actually embody. For Maslow, great therapy helps you not just to look for truth or goodness, but to value them as a part of your very core. So, how do we get there? Well, this is the crucial part. Maslow was convinced that we all have this natural, built-in drive to grow into our best selves. So the therapist's job isn't to install that drive. It's more like they're a gardener, clearing away the weeds, the fears, the dependencies, so that the flower that's already inside you can finally bloom. Okay, so if the therapist is the gardener, how do they know which weeds to pull? For that, Maslow uses his famous hierarchy of needs. Think of it like a map for this whole journey. Yeah, you've probably seen this pyramid before, right? You've got the bottom rungs of the ladder. First, you need the absolute basics to survive: food, water, a roof over your head. Then, right after that, you need to feel safe and secure. And then comes that huge, deeply human need for love and belonging. These are the foundations of everything. Now, this is where Maslow gets really practical. He says, look, if you were genuinely struggling to meet those first two needs, if you're worried about where your next meal is coming from, or if you have a safe place to sleep tonight, psychotherapy is not going to be your priority. You're in survival mode, and that makes perfect sense. And this brings us right to the heart of it all. If therapy isn't really for people on those first two levels of the pyramid, then where does it fit? What is the real need that drives someone to walk into a therapist's office? And here it is. This is where therapy finds its place. According to Maslow, most people who show up for therapy have their food and safety needs pretty much covered. The real struggle, that deep down ache that brought them there, is a struggle to find and feel love and a real sense of belonging. Okay, so if the core problem is this lack of love and belonging, what's the solution? This leads us to what Maslow called the best psychological medicine. It's simple, but it is so powerful. First things first, we have to get one thing straight. Therapy isn't some abstract intellectual thing. At its core, it is a human process. It's all about the connection, the relationship that happens between two people. And there it is. That's the engine for change. Maslow just lays it out there. The relationship itself is the medicine. It's not some fancy technique. It's not a complicated theory. It's the warm, accepting, healthy bond that can form between a client and their therapist. And what happens when you get a dose of this medicine? Well, it's like a beautiful chain reaction. Just by experiencing this one healthy relationship, the client finally gets that deep need for love and belonging met. That in turn builds real confidence, a real feeling of self-worth. And that is what empowers them to go out and build other healthy relationships in the rest of their life. Which brings us to our final stop, the path to growth. How is this one single therapeutic relationship kickstart that bigger journey toward becoming your best self, that journey toward what Maslow called self-actualization? It all works by planting a seed. That safe, accepting relationship doesn't just feel good in the therapy room. It fundamentally changes what a client believes about themselves. They start to feel deep down in their bones that they are actually worthy of love. And that feeling, well, that's the fuel that empowers them to take risks and connect with people out in the real world. And that right there is the ultimate takeaway from Maslow's whole perspective. Therapy isn't about patching a hole or fixing something that's broken. It's a catalyst. It's about a connection that removes the blockages and unleashes that powerful, natural drive toward growth that Maslow believed is inside every single one of us, just waiting to come out. So, as we wrap up, I'll just leave you with this thought. When we understand that our own growth so often starts with a fundamental need for connection, it really invites us to think differently about our own lives. It makes you ask yourself, what does my own path to growth look like?